So, if you're in the short term rental game, you've probably heard it a million times. Automation is everything. But what if that's only like half the story? What if the real key to a business that lasts is something that almost everyone is overlooking? Let's get into it.
Oh man, we've all been there, haven't we? You fall down that YouTube rabbit hole totally convinced that the next piece of software is going to be the magic bullet for your property. It's such an easy trap to fall into. And honestly, it shows a massive blind spot in how we all think about success in this industry. And after all that research, where do you usually land? Right here. It's almost always these three things. Kind of the holy trinity of STR tech, right? You've got your channel manager to sync all the calendars, a dynamic pricing tool to squeeze out every last dollar, and market analytics to spy on the competition. This is pretty much the standard playbook everyone follows.
Okay, let's be super clear here. These tools are not the enemy, they're actually great. A good channel manager is amazing at making sure you don't get double booked. And pricing tools? Yeah, they can definitely help you react to demand. They do their jobs really, really well. The thing is, their job is a lot smaller than we give them credit for. And that right there, that brings us to the real problem. There is this huge, dangerous assumption that's baked into this whole automation first mindset. It's an assumption that could be quietly costing you a fortune, and you might not even know it. This is the question that changes absolutely everything. All that shiny, sophisticated software in the world, it operates on one simple belief, that you're starting with a good property and a good location. But what if you're not? I mean, what actually happens when you bolt world-class automation onto a fundamentally weak asset? And you can see the disconnect right here on this slide. The software lives over there in the left column, assuming everything's great. But for so many people, the reality is what's on the right. The asset itself is just okay, the so-called demand is just temporary hype, and the property is basically designed to underperform from the get-go. So how does this even happen? Well, it's because what most people call location analysis isn't really analysis at all. It's just kind of common sense. Hearing that a certain zip code is hot or that a neighborhood feels up and coming, that's not deep analysis. That's just repeating what you've heard. Real assessment goes so much deeper. It's about looking at the tiny microsignals, not just these big, blurry zip code averages. For instance, is the demand in an area driven by something permanent, like a new hospital or a university campus? Or is it driven by a one-time music festival that won't be back next year? That's the difference between real structural demand and fleeting temporary hype. And this slide just lays out the chain reaction perfectly. It all starts with a weak decision on the location. That leads to low structural demand, which of course results in poor performance. And then, at the very end of that chain, you plug in your fancy, expensive software, and all you're doing is getting really, really efficient at losing money. So here's the absolute crucial point. The problem isn't the software. The problem is the timing. The failure already happened way back at the decision-making stage, long before you ever paid for a single subscription. These tools are being asked to solve a problem they were never, ever designed to fix. All right, so if the tools aren't the magic answer, what is? Well, we have to completely shift our focus. We need to stop thinking about late-stage optimization and start obsessing over early-stage validation. We gotta build a better foundation from day one. And this brings us to this idea we call the Evergreen Index. The best way to think about it is like a filter. It's a framework you use to figure out if a location's demand is the real deal, if it's structural and built to last, instead of just being propped up by seasonal spikes or some temporary trend. Using this index forces you to ask the right questions before you invest. Is this demand going to be here in 5 years? Can this location survive a recession because it has multiple reasons for people to visit? And maybe the most important question of all, is my technology going to amplify my returns, or is it just going to automate my losses? And at the end of the day, it's really this simple. You would never, ever build a skyscraper on a foundation made of sand, right? Well, it's the exact same idea here. You cannot use software to patch up a business that was built on a weak location. Automation just acts as a giant magnifying glass for whatever is already there, good or bad. All of this really leads to a huge shift in mindset. It's about truly understanding what technology is for in your business. It's about moving from a defensive game to an offensive one. I mean, just look at the two paths on this slide. The wrong way is using all these tools as a crutch, basically hoping they'll make up for a bad call you made months ago. The right way? You make a fantastic decision first, and then you use the tools to pour gasoline on that fire and amplify its success.
So the most critical work you'll ever do isn't picking out your software. Nope. It's what happens in that crucial space between finding a good property and deciding how to automate it. That little gap right there, that's where strategy is born. That's where the wins happen. And this choice you make really determines which of two futures you get. If you have that solid, evergreen foundation, every single tool you add becomes powerful leverage, multiplying your success. But without it, all you've bought yourself is speed. You're just moving really, really fast in completely the wrong direction. So I guess I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. Is your SDR strategy built on a solid foundation designed to amplify strength? Or is it just fast automation hoping that more tech can somehow save a bad decision? The answer to that? Well, it's gonna define everything.